Hello again, everybody. This is Bob Milam from the Utah High School Football Officials Association with another study topic for 2023. Today we're going to be talking about game preparation and expectations. These are the things that go on outside of the time that we blow the first whistle for ready for play and the time that we walk off the field. So all the rest of that time, we've got some other duties that go along with our jobs. So we're going to talk about that today in this short training video. So let's get started. So our agenda today is that we just need to realize that there's a lot more to our jobs than just working the game. So today we'll cover preseason duties, what to do before the season ever gets started. Or you can go back now that the season has started, go back now and get some of these things taken care of as quickly as possible. Your pregame duties at home before you leave for the game site. Once you get your assignment, what do you need to do? We'll talk about pregame duties on site the day of the game. We'll talk about nothing relating to live football. We're not going to talk about any mechanics or rules today. We're going to focus on all the rest of the stuff that happens. We'll talk about some post-game and halftime duties on site. And then finally, what to do at home after the game and before your next assignment. All right, let's get started. Preseason. What do we need to be thinking about as officials as we approach our season? Well, first of all, we need to get all of our signups done properly. So if you belong to multiple groups, whether it be the UHSAA, Little League, or other groups, make sure that you're signed up and registered with all of them and that you've got them linked in your Arbiter program. So link everything together. Make sure that you can see all of your assignments when they come in. Get everything set up properly. So please register with the state and with all of your groups. And there's a number of officials out there this year for 2023 who have not taken care of this paperwork. So make sure that you do before the games are pulled from you for not being registered. Secondly, pay your dues. Each of us belongs to a local association. Each local association collects dues along with the state fees that we have to pay. So please make sure that you get that done. Pay your dues. Simple thing to do. Why put it off? So get it done. Get your equipment ready. Take your stuff out of mothballs, lay it out, make sure you've got everything, and make sure that everything is in good working order. Don't get to the game site and discover that your zipper's broken or something else has happened to your uniform. So check everything, shoelaces, the works, and all of your referee equipment as well. Not just your clothing, but your tools of the game. Down indicators, penalty flags, whistles, lanyards, etc., etc. So get those all ready to go. Log in and be familiar with arbitersports.com. This is where not only our assignments come from, but our pay also comes from this particular site. So you should be very familiar with how this site works and how to go to things like your eligibility tab, your schedule, and other areas within this, your pay, other areas within this site. There's a lot of information there and a lot of links there that you need to be familiar with and understand how they work to make your season successful and avoid problems. One of the problems most people have when they're first getting started is, how do I get the pay? And make sure that you go into arbitersports.com and link your bank account to RefPay. Make sure that this happens. Otherwise, the money will not get to you in a timely fashion. Get approved for viewing Huddle. Huddle is the software we use to view game film. Matt Schofield can get you signed up for this. Make sure that you look on the UHSFOA website and get his contact information, or notify a member of your local association board to make sure that you're approved and on the list to view the Huddle film that is submitted by the schools. This is critical to our training and to our evaluation of our performances and to help us get better at what we do. And I think we all want to get better at our jobs. Now, calendar your available dates with your family and work. Make sure that you know and they know when you're going to be available to work football. The assignments come out on a week by week basis, so sometimes it's hard to predict, but you need to make sure that you're available, and then go into arbitersports.com and set up your block dates. This is absolutely critical that you do this so that the assigners know when you're available to work and when you're not. Make sure that you do this for the entire season, which runs through Thanksgiving for football. So make sure that you set up your block dates. Watch your email for assignments. Your assignments will come through the email account that you link to arbitersports.com. So if you use multiple email accounts, make sure which one you have linked to Arbiter Sports, because that's the one where your assignments will come from. So watch your email for your game assignments. Then when you get one, make sure that you either accept or decline your assignments promptly. Don't be part of that notified list. That means you've seen the assignment, but you haven't accepted it yet. So make sure that you accept or decline your assignments promptly. And let me give you a quick hint here. Never decline an assignment. You should have taken care of that when you set up your block dates. If you have an open date that you haven't blocked and you get an assignment there, that's on you. And it's gonna follow you around for a while if you decline or turn back an assignment, except in extreme emergency situations such as injury, illness, or other death in the family, other unplanned events that might take you away from that or turn that date into a block date. So as soon as you find out, make sure that you let the assigners know so that they can assign you on dates when you are available to work. Then attend your meetings and complete all your tests on time. We've got 2 this year, and a deadline is approaching for the first one. Make sure that you complete that test and pass it with at least a score of 84 or higher. And then attend your chapter meetings and watch the trainings that are published throughout the year. Really important stuff. This is all preseason. This is to get you ready for assignments that might come. So let's talk about pregame duties at home once the week of the game rolls around. So before the assignment ever comes, take the time to review the training videos that are posted on the UHS FOA website. That's a great time to review and refresh yourself with all of the topics that the associations have deemed important enough to study. Also, read your rule book when it comes. Read your case book when it comes. Spend some time in there looking at things that maybe you don't understand and try and find answers for those questions in your books as well. Review your games on Huddle from the past season if you're a second-year returning official. If you don't have any games on Huddle from last year, then go find some games that sound interesting and watch them. Watch games that might be on your schedule, involving teams that might be on your schedule this year, or watch games that your friends are working, or watch the good officials in your association, watch them work in order to learn from them. So make sure that you review your games from the past year. When the assignment is first given, make sure that you accept it right away. Accept or decline with as soon as you possibly can. Don't delay this. Don't sit and think about it for a couple of days. The assigners need to know what holes they need to fill as quickly as possible and who's available to fill them. So make sure that you give them every opportunity to do their job by doing yours. So accept the assignments right away. Now, what happens if you decline? I guarantee that the assignment quality will decline right with you. The more turnbacks you have, the less reliable the assigners will feel that you are. So there are consequences of declining if you have not blocked the date. So blocking a date is different than declining an assignment. Make sure that you block the dates. There are no consequences for that. But if you don't block your dates and then you decline an assignment, there will be consequences involved. All right, communication before game day. What needs to happen once the assignment comes? What communication should you expect or should you send as a crew chief? Well, to the crew, you can expect a notification and logistics coordination communication from your crew chief. This can take the form of an email, text, or a phone call, but it should include notification that, hey, I recognize that you're on the crew this week. We've got some things to discuss before the game. What time do you need to show up? Where do you need to show up? And any other logistics that might be involved. There should be a pregame agenda for the pregame discussion included with this. And also, don't forget your penalty reporter. Make sure that they have the forms that they need, that they're invited to participate in your pregame with you, and that you have everything that they need to do their job properly. If you're penalty reporting, make sure that you contact your crew chief ahead of time to arrange how you're going to do this and what form the crew chief would like the penalty tracking to take. So make sure that you do that and that you have the necessary pens, clipboards, forms, and other things to do your job as a penalty reporter. There also needs to be communication to the school, the coaches, and the ADs to make sure that they know who is coming and when you're coming to the school so that they can arrange for their management, the game management staff, to make sure that you can get into a locker room, that the locker room is ready, and and who to expect to show up. So it's important that you make a conversation, that you reach out as crew chief to the school, the coaches, and the ADs. Finally, there's one other communication that needs to take place. This one is between the referee or the crew chief and Jeff Clough. This needs to occur on Friday morning, and it's where the referee reports who will be driving to the game. As you notify and coordinate your logistics for the game day, there may be a driver selected who is not currently slated to receive the full mileage reimbursement. So in order to get this reimbursement correct for the actual driver on game day, make sure that you contact Jeff with either an email or a text and let him know who the driver is going to be coming to the game. Finally, your physical preparation and professional appearance. Showing up to a game ready to work is very different than showing up to a game and kind of just deciding right then to get serious about officiating. So one of the suggestions we have for you is to make a checklist so that you don't forget your pants or your shirt or your hat or other parts of your referee gear that may have been laundered and washed over the previous week. You'll need to repack everything and make sure you know where everything is. So I will guarantee you your memory's not good enough to do this. You need to make a checklist to follow each week so that your physical preparation and professional appearance show up with you. All right, how about on-site? Once we get to the game site, we've got a lot of things that need to happen there. First, it's very important that a pregame and a pregame discussion follows an agenda and begins on time. So if you're running late to your pregame, you need to be able to call or text somebody to let them know. And things happen. There are accidents and there are traffic issues and all kinds of other things. The boss decides right before you're leaving work that he needs to talk to you for 10 or 15 minutes. And sometimes you can be running late that are with issues that are beyond your control. What's not beyond your control is to call or text somebody to let them know that you're running late. So please do this. This is a professional courtesy to the other members of your crew. Otherwise, they'll spend time planning to work the game with four-man mechanics or trying to coach the foul reporter as to how they're going to fill in. So don't make the crew go through that. If you're running late, text somebody or call them. But then once you reach the pregame and you've all assembled in the locker room, we need to talk quite a bit about how to participate in a pregame discussion. So it's important that you show up prepared to contribute. Now that's on the crew chief. The responsibility for this rests with the crew chief to communicate what those expectations are. What should you be bringing knowledge-wise to the pregame? But show up prepared to contribute with questions or issues that you want to resolve to prepare for a successful night's game. Don't steal anyone's thunder. So wait your turn to talk. Make sure that the person who owns the meeting, the crew chief, is comfortable with your participation. So make sure that if you want to speak about a particular topic, make sure that you don't steal somebody else's thunder who's already prepared that. Add comments where assigned or add helpful information to the discussion. Make sure that your discussion and your comments are appropriate and help the crew reach consensus on site for different issues. We're going to talk more about this in just a minute on the next slide, but what consensus do you reach when you're in this pregame discussion is important. So we need to realize that that's what we're trying to do in this pregame locker room meeting. Once we're done there, we need to go meet and identify the key host personnel, the coaches, the ADs, who the trainer is, who security is, who's up in the press box, who's running the clock, etc., etc. These are important personnel that are not part of your game assignment, but believe me, they will come in handy throughout the game should you encounter problems. So you need to know who to go to if there's a security problem, or if there's a major injury, or if there are problems getting into the locker room, etc., etc. So meet and identify who the key host personnel are. Spend some time there. Once you get on the field, after you've left the locker room and you're out there on the field for your pregame time, this is usually the 30 minutes prior to kickoff. It's important that you review all of the game assignments with the clock operators and the chain crew. We've talked about this before. These are the two groups that can get you in trouble during the game, so make sure that they understand exactly what their role is and how to do it. You need to review whatever field hazards are out there and try and identify them if possible. And then finally, player equipment. This is the time prior to kickoff when you see the players, and you don't always have this opportunity for very long, that you take care of and correct all of the player equipment issues. Things like adornments and visors and other illegal equipment need to be corrected at this point before we get to game time. Don't let it bleed over into game time unless it then becomes clear that the responsibility has been transferred to the team. So you take it off of your shoulders by reviewing it now and put it on the shoulders of the coaching staff. Don't just wander around out on the field. It's important that you spend your time with a purpose. If you're the white hat, go listen to what they're telling the chain crew. Go up to the press box and pregame with the clock operators. Don't just wander around and be the celebrity prior to the game. Spend your time with a purpose and move with a purpose. Keep your coach meetings brief, unlike this training. Make sure that your coach meetings are brief. Follow your referee's lead in conducting this head coach meeting. It can be brief. It can be just the referee and umpire, or it can be everybody on the crew, but it needs to be brief, and you need to remember when it's your turn to speak to add what you can. But follow your referee's lead in that. He may ask you not to say anything to the coaches. He may ask you to say something specific to the coaches. So make sure that you follow that lead. Then make sure at the coin flip that you record and write down the choices that have been made by the two teams involved. Which team won the toss, who deferred, who's kicking off the first half, and the most important, who has the choice, who has the option at the start of the second half. Then, as you prepare for this, where are you going to stand as the players emerge from the locker room, as they take the field again? Are you going to be monitoring them for sportsmanlike behavior? If so, you better plan ahead to do that. And then where are you going to stand for the national anthem, as well as where you're going to be for the coin flip? So a lot of stuff here on this list for the pregame on site that you have to remember. All right, let's talk a little bit more in depth about what happens during the pregame discussion. The pregame discussion should be to reach, as I mentioned, to reach consensus and to prepare for success in that night's game. So you're going to be talking about things like kickoffs, running game, passing game, punts, goal line, 2-minute drills, field goals, and tries. You should also plan to cover these different things, including penalty administration. That's at the top of the list this year. Intentional grounding, any turnovers, new rules, special situations, measurements, clock management, and so forth. Now, these things on the left side of this list, these will definitely happen during your game. And the one that's on the right, they might happen. In fact, it's possible for a game not to have any penalties, but I've never seen one. It's very likely that you're going to have to talk about these other things, all of these things on the list that might happen, as well as all the things that will happen. And it's important that you reach consensus and prepare for the game ahead. So it's important for you to read your mechanics book, talk about these things as it relates to your role, and then understand what your role is and what others are going to do so that you don't duplicate. So it's important, even simple things like a backward or forward pass. How are the wings going to communicate this to the referee? How are you going to communicate when there's a first down? How are you going to move the chains and who's going to do it? There's a number of different things to talk about in all of these areas. So these are the areas we want to see you focus on to prepare for the game. We're not concerned about preparing for things that will not happen during a game. Things like obscure, difficult plays are nice things to learn, but they can be done other times, not during the pregame discussion. So this should be focused on you getting ready for the game as a crew. All right, about halftime and postgame on site, we have 2 more opportunities for us to learn and get better. One is at halftime and one is postgame. So at halftime, we need to be reviewing key situations that have happened to us during the game. There's always 3 or 4 plays during each half of football that need to be reviewed, discussed, and talked about, because that's where we earn our money, is on those 3 or 4 key plays throughout the game. So review the key situation and make the necessary adjustments as a crew so that you can be successful in the second half. Be focused during this time, because realize you only have about 10 minutes of actual talking time once you get to the spot where you're going to have this discussion, whether it's on the field or back in the locker room. You're only going to have about 10 minutes at most to make these adjustments. So be focused and contribute, and don't distract from the purpose of the halftime downtime. It's not a vacation time. We're working during this time. Post-game, after the game is over, it's important that you talk again about situation, review those key situations again, but encourage improvement and learning. Here's what you need to do, maybe need to do better, and here's where you can learn how to do this, and here's some of the right things to follow. So we want to encourage improvement at this point. The game is now in the bag, and we need to make sure that people get better for the next assignment that they get. So one way to do this is to ask each person involved on the crew to identify one thing to self-improve, something to work on to get better. Where do you think you may have been weak during tonight's performance, during the game? It may be your out of bounds spots. It may be your clock management. It might be your penalty administration. Who knows? But it's going to be different each time. So self-evaluate yourself and identify at least one thing to self-improve on. Review the penalty report at this point and the post game. Take it out and capture an image on your phone. Then that image should be sent to each crew person so that everybody has a copy of the penalty report and can look at it after the game and make corrections and report them to the referee before he enters the report. Also, having an image of the penalty report will enable you to have a much richer film study if you watch the post-game film with your penalty report in hand so that you know what penalties are coming and you can watch those plays a little bit closer or watch for those situations and review whether or not our flags are appropriate in each situation. So capture an image of the penalty report and distribute it to the crew. Leave the locker room together. This is really important. In today's society, sometimes our games are rough and sometimes people are waiting in the parking lot. So make sure that you leave the locker room together, go to your cars together. If necessary, use security to get escorted to your car, but always remember that there's safety in numbers and don't put yourself in a situation that could cause other things to happen. Then remember to thank your host school personnel. They've gone to a lot of work to make sure that you have a locker room to meet in, that it's private, that your stuff is protected during the game, and all of the other things that go along with that. So make sure that you thank your host school personnel who are there that you see. They spend an awful lot of time for not a lot of pay. So make sure that you thank them. All right, let's talk about post-game at home. Once you get back from the game, your job's not done. We've still got more things to do. So first thing is enter the penalty report. This should be done within 24 hours if possible. For a game on a Friday, Monday at the very latest. But again, get the feedback and the corrections from the crew before you enter the penalty report. Then enter that penalty report within 24 hours if it's possible. Review your game film as a crew on Huddle when it's published. And it's not always published, but the schools are getting much better, and the state is cracking down on them to submit game film on a more regular basis. So try to find plays when you watch your film on Huddle where you can implement improvement. So figure out plays where, boy, I should have done this better. Boy, I wasn't crisp in marking the forward progress spot. That's a banana in instead of a square in move. And wings, you'll understand what that means. So look for plays where you can improve and try and highlight those issues and maybe write those things down, put them in the back of your mind so that the next time you take the field, you can implement those improvements in your game. Share the comments with the crew when you watch film on Huddle. Then report any ejections to the UHSAA immediately. This is so critical. We covered it in a previous training, but we need to use the form on the UHSAA website for ejections in football. The ejecting official is the one who completes the report. Make sure that you copy the crew on what you report. That is important so that everybody knows what was said to the state so that if there are any questions, we all have the same story and the same version of events. This must be submitted the same day. Don't delay this. This is critical that this information gets to the UHSAA office before the schools start to report and start to complain about your decision to eject. So make sure that you submit that ejection report the same day. Don't delay that at all. And then, of course, forward any other situations to the board and to the UHSAA. If there are field hazards that can't be corrected on site, those should be reported to the UHSAA. If there are issues with people on your crew, those need to be reported to the board, to your local board, and any other unusual things that have happened. Be concise, be brief, but make a report. If it's important, we want to know about it. All right, let's sum up what we've talked about, and we've covered a lot here in this session. So, first, your pregame at home. It's very important that once you get an assignment that you communicate what is expected. That needs to be clearly set by the crew chief and followed and lived up to by each member of the crew. So your pregame at home should be to communicate and accept the expectations and then do your preparation to get ready for your assignment. On site, we want to discuss and reach consensus in our pregame. Don't waste time. Don't do anything that doesn't have a purpose to making your game experience better. During the game, act decisively and confidently with your calls and your mechanics. If you prepared well, this will happen and this will come easily. Halftime and postgame, make your adjustments that you need to, and then postgame at home, provide guidance that grows officials over the course of a season and over the course of their career. That's how we all get better. So it's important that we do these things in order not just to manage the game, but to manage our careers in a positive direction. Apply what you learn, build your crew, and lead your crew. Be a leader, whether you're the crew chief or not. Build your crew up and lead your crew to success. And with that, we'll close. And if there are any questions, please contact us. Otherwise, have a great season in 2023. Thanks.